Hello, PriceSmart. Welcome to our podcast, At the Club, a communication channel with our employees, where we will share valuable information, fascinating topics, and inspiring stories that you haven't heard before, keeping us connected on a whole new level. Join us on this journey and discover everything happening at the club. PriceSmart Inc. provides this podcast for general information. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are the personal views of the podcasters and their guests, and not the views, policies, or opinions of PriceSmart. PriceSmart makes no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. This podcast might contain forward-looking statements concerning PriceSmart's anticipated plans, revenues, and related matters. These statements are subject to risks and uncertainties that could cause actual results to differ materially, including the risks detailed in PriceSmart's most recent annual report on Form 10-K and other filings with the SEC, which are accessible on the SEC's website at www.sec.gov.
So I was the first employee of the month. And then in 1 year, I became a receiving manager. I'm so grateful for what Costco also taught me. If you ever want to be a great leader, you got to lead by example. I fell in love with it because how PriceSmart changed people's life. If you don't know the answer, just tell me. It's okay. We don't have to know everything.
And Saul always said you got to look at things through the eyes of a cranky customer.
When you're passionate, when you love what you do, and when there's an opportunity, you take it, and you give it 100%. This is what you could do.
Welcome to At the Club, PriceSmart's employee podcast. I'm your host, David Price, also now CEO of PriceSmart. I'm going to try to keep doing these, although my responsibilities have grown. I really enjoy these podcasts and having a chance to talk with our different guests from mainly inside the company, but also from outside. And also so excited to be in our second season. We had a great first season, and our team, mainly in Colombia, but also elsewhere, supported us in all of the production and content that you saw throughout the last year. And we're here for another one. So I hope you enjoy this discussion. And speaking of discussion, I'm here with one of our key leaders at PriceSmart, Pedro Vera, who's our Senior Vice President of Operations in Colombia, but a lot more than that. So Pedro, thanks for being here today.
Well, David, I'm really excited to be here, and I'm honored to be your first guest in your new role. For me, that's something I will never forget. So thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. As I was thinking about who I wanted to have on the second season of the podcast, you were near the top of my list because your personal story is so interesting. And when I think about individuals on our team that are exceptional at building teams, leading diverse groups of people into achieving more than they thought was possible, you're one of those people I think about.
Thank you.
Of course, yeah. So I guess to begin, how did you end up at PriceSmart?
Well,
let's go all the way back.
Well, that's going a little way back, but it's a really interesting story. You know, my mom gave me an application of a place called Price Club. At that time, I really just graduated from high school. I did a couple of jobs. I was working in a gas station. Mr. G, I remember his son had cancer, and he's like, Pedro, I need you to help me run this gas station. I was like maybe 18, 19 years old. So I used to kind of run the gas station for him.
That was in New York?
That was in New York, yeah. That was in New York.
Where you grew up?
That's where I'm from New York. Yeah, so after...
I hear
it. So after that, doing the gas station, then I was like, he sold the business. So I went into working for Rock Bottom, which is like a CBS back in the days. And I wasn't feeling it. So, when I saw Price Club, I'm like, what is this? So my mom's like, you got to go. She had an intuition, my mom, about things that were good for me. It, started with...
Many mothers do,
Yeah, it started with...
Another secret power.
Yeah, I agree. It started with this. She was like, you got to go. And she was insisting. And I said, who gave you this? And she's like, Abner's mother. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go. So I applied. I entered this application, this place called Price Club. And then I didn't know nothing about it. At that time, you couldn't Google anything, so I wasn't sure what this was. Maybe you could have, but I didn't know where.
No, I Google.
So
what year was that?
That was 1992.
Okay.
And then I decided to apply. They called me, and I got an interview, and they say you're going to start. It's a warehouse. We sell merchandise, and I was like, all right, let me give it a shot. So the first week, they had me in an office. filling memberships, putting an envelope, filling out the membership application with a direction of where this was supposed to go. I was there for almost 10 days. I'm like, this is not going to work for me because I'm not a person to sit in a desk. But then after the fun came, so we got to the club, and it was this humongous warehouse, right? It was right by Fortunoff and Roosevelt Racetrack, which they had tear it down and there was basically a lot of dirt. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. And then we started building the steel, and I started falling in love with that type of work. It was a long hours. It was a lot of building, but also it was not understanding what we were building at that time. It was just like, this is what you got to do. This is how it goes.
So you're working in construction at this point.
Kind of construction, doing the steel was kind of construction, but it was a lot of fun. The guys that we were working with were really interesting guys, and there was a lot of guys, like 4 guys I remember. One of them was Vinny Janis. I will never forget him. He took me under his wing at that time, and he's like, look, you're hard working. I think you're going to go somewhere. This guy had a whole bunch of stars, blue stars, gold star, and a golden rule. And he's been working for Price Club for a while on his badge. Yeah. So I was like a little interested in what is all those things for, Now I'm getting a couple of weeks there. I'm really interested in this. So now we started seeing the building, the place was built, and then also the merchandise came in, and we were ready to open. And I remember it was a lot of long hours, long hours I remember, but I loved it. I couldn't do nothing else. And then it was like the day before opening. I will never forget this. And I'm like, okay, everything's ready, settled. We're ready. Next day is opening. And I remember somebody, at that time I had no idea, came, and he had a long black coat, and he was with a lady. And he's like, hi, how you doing? I'm like, hi. He's like, you have the wrong merchandise in the end cap. You got to put the rice pudding on the end cap. I'm like, sure, no problem. So I just cut a piece of cardboard, and I started writing rice pudding, end cap, and he told me also to move the pickles to the other side and the fruit salad to this side. I'm like, okay, all right, he's telling me because he must know something. So it was my idea at that time.
He didn't introduce himself. Who was it?
He did say, I remember, I'm Robert. I'm like, but I didn't put one to the other that time. I was just a stalker.
Yeah, sure.
I was just a stalker. So, after that, the warehouse manager comes, and he's like, did you get everything you said? Yeah, it's in the paper. Why is everybody freaking out about it? So I did all the changes, and then a couple of weeks later, I found out it was the owner. I was like, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. And then from there on, it just started after we opened. It was just an amazing feeling how we could serve so many people. And what I did meant something. And it really was, for me, kind of something I just started loving. And that was in 1992, October, when we opened at Westbury, I remember. And after that, David, I never have stopped loving what I do. So that's how I started into this company.
So over 30 years ago.
Yeah, over 30 years ago. And I remember that another the big satisfaction was I was the first employee of the month in Westbury.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, all right, so guess what happened? When you are the employee of the month, you get a gold star. So I'm like, I want to get more gold stars. So I became employee more twice. The first month and the second month, I remember, reflecting back. And then after that...
At that point, had Price Club and Costco merged?
No, that happened. That was in 1992. They merged in 1993. Mm-hmm. I remember that time. So after that, I just became a supervisor. 6 months later, the warehouse manager felt that it was time for me to take the role of a supervisor. And then in 1 year, I became a receiving manager. And that's when the merge, there were rumors about the merge, something happening. And then I went to the floor. They sent me to be merchandising on the floor. And that's when they merged. And a lot of the guys that work for us now in the merger, some of them left. Mm-hmm. And Westbury was one of the top volume clubs. I mean, I remember the Christmas, there were 6 days that we did $1 million. Wow. In sales. Six straight days.
That would be a killer day today.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I remember that time. I remember coming at midnight and the store was completely empty. which was easier
$1
to
million was worth more back then too.
probably, absolutely,
definitely.
absolutely,
Inflation.
absolutely. And it's funny. We always just say with liquor, or without liquor, because we used to rent the store next to it to a third party. So we're without liquor because it was liquor, then it wasn't a million.
To count the sales.
Correct, counting the sales. So then after that, when the merge happened, I had the opportunity to also work in that transition with Costco. I worked for them for from 92 until maybe 1999 when I started back in PriceSmart. I'm so grateful for what Costco also taught me. I had a chance to walk with Jim Sinegal on the floor walks. And when these guys left, all the guys that were senior from the Price Club, I was the only one to stay kind of behind. A lot of the other guys have left. And I had a good friend at that time. His name was Rob Pook. And him and I were in charge of the floor, and we had our first visit. I got to tell you, David, it didn't go that well.
This was from Costco now.
This is from Costco. It didn't go that well.
What did you learn on that floor walk?
We learned that we just had to do what we know what to do. Why did we both decide to do something more to impress instead of just doing what we normally do? That's that I remember when, after today, I just remember clearly, Joe Patera is like, I'm going to be back tomorrow. And I want to see the place the way I know you guys could do it. And we were like, okay. So I remember we sat back. We were bummed. We were upset because we worked so hard, but we just did too much.
Yeah.
And I knew that I knew that because doing too much, something's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, maybe for the benefit of our listeners, I might just explain the term floor walk, because many of our listeners are PriceSmart employees, but not all.
Okay.
And floor walk is a particular ritual and teaching tool that we use at PriceSmart, where leaders from outside of the particular location walk the location aisle by aisle, looking at merchandise, facilities, what's going on with people, what's going on with the particular product, packaging, where is it placed. You look at everything. And Saul always said you got to look at things through the eyes of a cranky customer, right?
That's right. That's correct.
So we do floor walks all the time. And so it's one of the greatest teaching tools we have for the brick and mortar part of the business, because you can really learn in real time.
Correct. So after that, they came in the next day, and we did everything that we were supposed to do from the first time, and the floor walk went well. It felt relief that they liked it, and after that, I had a great relationship with all the executive at Costco until I made the change to work for PriceSmart in 1999, and that's where my wife that is now came with me, because we were dating at that time, but when I met her, I knew she was the one. I just knew it. So I told her, look, I'm going to go try this new job called PriceSmart, and it's going to be in Guatemala. I'm still not sure where it is, but I remember it's but it's not in New York. And she was like, I'll go with you to the moon. I was like, serious? So after that, she came with me. We worked together.
Were you guys married yet when you moved together?
No
way.
We got engaged. I knew she was
a big leap.
Yeah,
both of you.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember that, David, when I told her, she said, I'll go with you. I'll go with the moon. I was like, wow. So we got engaged, and our first job was Salvador. We went to
El Salvador first.
First, we went to El Salvador, and then we worked there. But at the same time, we were supporting Guatemala. So I was spending some time in Guatemala. Meanwhile, my wife was teaching all the front end admin, because she worked on that side, but that side of the business in El Salvador. So that's how it started, 1999.
With PriceSmart.
With PriceSmart.
And were you helping open those countries at that time?
Yes. I was. I opened El Salvador with Chris Serrata. I opened El Salvador with him. It was very interesting. And for me, after we opened, and first of all, working in El Salvador and working in Guatemala, I mean, for me, was a big change. A big change as far as working in the U.S. I just felt that the people, our employees, I mean, when you started talking to them, I mean, it was like, some of them, where they were coming from, some of them, some of the stalkers when I used to be like, oh no, I live here, I live there. I mean, it's not like the U.S. where everybody, lives in a house. And it was, for me, it was a kind of a little surprising how some of the people were living in these countries and how their background and how they come. And some of them weren't even going to school. So I was like a little bit surprised with that. But they were very hard workers. I mean, and then I started just kind of adapting to them, learning, how to help, I need the floor. Now, how do you teach these to people who have never seen a pallet jack? Pallet jack is what we use to move merchandise around. How do you show them how to cut? Because they didn't know how to use a blade. So it was like, for me, I started becoming a teacher, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. Because now I am the one that has the knowledge. And so my job, it was to try to make sure everybody started learning what an end cap was, which we'll put at the end, what is a sign. So I really enjoyed my time in Guatemala and my time in El Salvador.
How many years did you spend there?
In Guatemala was just helping. There were 2 expats there. We had a great business in that club, and they needed, talent. They needed people that knew how to teach. And I remember I used to go there, spend a couple of weeks, and then go back to El Salvador. And then while we were opening El Salvador, then try to go back to Guatemala, and just back and forth until, opening days were coming closer in El Salvador. So those was my first 2 projects at PriceSmart, and I fell in love with it because how PriceSmart changed people's life. For me, it was like, wow, how much the difference of how we pay the employees, how the employees appreciated working there. I mean, for us, everybody was family. My wife and I didn't know anybody in these countries. And most of these employees, they were so nice to us. If you need something, go over here. There's a nice tourist place there. I mean, it was just, for me, it was amazing living in this industry.
Incredible experience. So how many countries have you lived in with PriceSmart?
I have lived probably except Panama, I probably have not. I haven't lived in Honduras, but after that, the Honduras and Panama are the 2 only ones I haven't lived in. I probably lived in all of them.
Really? So you've worked in Nicaragua?
Yes, I helped open Nicaragua, but I didn't live there. You're right. So Nicaragua will be another one.
And you've spent time in Costa Rica?
Yes, my son is a Tico. He was born there.
Oh, really?
My son Joseph was born in Costa Rica. He was the second kid born in the hospital next to Escazú.
Oh, yeah.
A girl beat him by, I think, 10 minutes.
It was the second one, period.
Well, no.
They built it.
Yes. After they built it, remember, they built it, and then they opened it, and then there was a girl that was born before him. And then he was at number 2.
That's interesting. Well, that area in Escazú was very rural.
It was.
Now it's like the hot spot, most metropolitan kind of place on the west side of the city.
I remember the hospital and PriceSmart. That's it. There was nothing else there. Nothing else.
So you worked there, Dominican Republic, of course.
Yes, I worked in
That's more recently. And then how about some of the other islands?
From when we were in Costa Rica, they asked me to go support Aruba, and then I left to Aruba, and I lived in Aruba for maybe a year and a half. And then after Aruba, they said, all right, Pedro, you got to go to the DR. Because at that time, we were going to open Mexico, and I was replacing Eric Torres. So I went to the DR, and after the DR, then we opened Santo Domingo, we opened Santiago, and then I started seeing Trinidad, Jamaica, and St. Thomas. So I started seeing the entire Caribbean. Great times. I mean, the great times in the Caribbean. I don't have a favorite, but I love Jamaica a lot. There's something about Jamaica that I really love going. Everybody always said Jamaica, is this dangerous? It's not dangerous. When I used to go there, I felt very comfortable. I love the people. I love the food. I really enjoy spending a lot of time. I lived in Jamaica as well for a little bit.
I'm curious, and we'll get to Colombia because currently we're recording from Colombia and you've lived here for a number of years now. But excluding Colombia, because we're going to talk some more about Colombia, what was the most difficult from a cultural perspective or just a lifestyle perspective? Like, what was the biggest change? Or was there any place that it was harder to kind of get accustomed to?
No, to be honest, for me, I didn't have any major issue trying accustomed to any place. I really fit in all the countries. I'm a very humble person, so I kind of just go with the flow, just try to learn from them, listen a lot. I never really felt like one was harder than the other. Everybody sometimes, would say Barbados was tough. But for me, Barbados was I enjoyed Barbados. Everybody, worked. I worked with them. I used to go in the morning. I used to, pull the jack. And maybe that's one of the things that they were always surprised. I mean, it's like, you're the jefe. Why are you pulling a jack? Why are you? Because I always tell me, if you ever want to be a great leader, you got to lead by example. You don't ask somebody to do something that you're not going to do. So, for me, I felt that.
I agree with that.
I really felt that was something that, for me, feeling uncomfortable in any market wasn't. I always fit in. Everybody loved my my sense of humor. I like to joke around a lot.
Is there a place where you felt most at home?
That's a tough question.
Okay.
But that's a tough question.
You can answer Colombia.
Colombia, I can say?
You can.
Well, all right. Well, Colombia, it's I've been here 9 years, and for me,
a long time.
This is where I feel most at home. I mean, the Colombian people have been so nice to me. I there's no words. I mean, this is for me where I have had the most fun. Yes. So, if we excluding the Caribbean, other South America, Central America, Colombia is probably the best one.
So tell me, let's switch gears then and talk about Colombia, because it's an incredible market. We've been here since 2011, and we've learned a lot as a company by being here. We started out with a ton of momentum, and we've also taken our licks. We've taken our knocks in this market, and we built back. And I think we built a great reputation with the consumer, and we have a wonderful team here. And I'm curious, what maybe for starters, what's the scope of your responsibility here in Colombia?
Well, in Colombia, my responsibility is operation, 100% operation. But I feel like I'm involved in everything. I'm involved in finance. I'm involved in marketing. I'm involved in every area, aspect of the business, including buying. I just feel that for me being here, I got to be everybody's eyes. I just cannot worry about operation. My relationship with all the departments is very, very strong, and I try to teach as much as I can. So I cannot just say, David, that I'm just responsible for operation. I feel like I'm responsible for everything, but operation is where I focus the most.
Right. Yeah, I think something that has made, when I think about really great teams at PriceSmart, Colombia is one of the markets that I look at. There's great talent here, not only because of education level, but because of passion and dedication and the sort of intensity that I see from the team. But I think I want you to talk about, I'm curious to ask you about two concepts and how you've helped cultivate them. And these weren't questions that we prepared for, but I'm sure you're going to handle it fine. But I want to talk about collaboration and shared ownership. So I think those are two things that particularly work well between the departments in Colombia, because retail is a team sport. So can you talk to me a little bit about how you've supported building a sense of shared ownership and a really good environment for collaboration?
Sure. I think the most important thing is to be present and to let everybody know I'm here. How can I help? What do you need from me? As a leader. As a leader, yeah. I think that has been my biggest attribute. And the other thing is, I have an open door policy. Anybody that has an issue or doesn't understand something, no matter what department you are, you just come in and ask me the question. And what I do is, I also, when I'm on the floor and I don't know somebody, I would approach, how you doing? I'm Pedro. What's going on? You're new. And I just want to know who they are, and what position, and what department. Having a central office, I mean, it's in Colombia, we have a central office over 300 employees.
Right.
There's a lot of people that sometimes I don't know. And I just, when I feel that I need to stop, I will stop and ask, where what department you work. So I think that's something that helps us work together. When I'm going to go a little bit into buying, when the buyers feel, hey, Pedro, what do you think about this? I'm like, that's a great item. Now, how can we get a price point of $19.99 or $29.99, depending on what your cost is. I'm always looking at the price points, because I really feel that's very important.
It is.
It's in our business.
Super important.
So that's how I just want to make sure that everybody knows that I'm here for them, and how and whatever they need. Right. So that way we can all work together. If there's a problem, how do we fix it?
Right. presence, open door policy, also a bias towards action. I know you're one that is not going to be slow to take action when necessary. And I think you're generally an optimistic person, a sense that things can be fixed. We can do better.
Yeah.
So we have 2,000 employees in Colombia, about
2,000,
300 of them are in our central office. And what's really unique about Colombia amongst the PriceSmart markets where we currently operate is how diverse of a country it is. And I'm curious if you could share a little bit about some of the things you've learned about differences between consumer taste in different cities, and what does the member want in maybe a place like Pereira versus Bogota versus Cali, and how has that been to manage such a diverse set of members?
Yeah.
Not that you're managing the members, but we're trying to serve them the best we can, right? And in so many of our small markets, there's a center of gravity of the population in one city. Colombia is very much not that way.
Colombia is very hard. It's not a difficult market. It's just a very hard market because, like you just said, David, every city is different. So what works in Cali may not work in Bogota. So I want to give you one example. When I first got to Colombia, we never sold ground beef. Coming from the Caribbean was our number one item.
Oh, in most countries, it's one of the top items.
So that was something that I couldn't understand. The first 2
So the
weeks,
member didn't want ground beef.
that's what they kept telling me.
Okay.
And I was like, there's no way. So in my travels, I started asking in every city about ground beef. And I started talking to a member. Everybody, competition, they had ground beef. So I started trying to understand, why is it us, PriceSmart, an American company, don't have ground beef? And at the end of the day, ground beef now is probably number one item, selling over maybe $12 million a year.
So was it price point? Was it packaging? What was it?
I don't think it was us knowing the market and knowing to ask the member if they want an item. That's what I particularly felt. I felt that we did not ask what every single city needs are.
And how do you do that in a place that's as big as Colombia?
Well, I learned this from Robert. Robert always said, if you want to improve your business, you go to the competition and you see what they're doing wrong, and you make sure you don't do that. But then you go and you see what they do right, and you try to do it better. And my first 3 years, that's what I spent a lot of time in the competition, understanding, seeing what they're doing, what they're strong at, and trying to really myself understand Colombia in the first 3 years. But I felt that was a little bit of the challenge. But the other challenge was people. I really felt that our people needed to understand our business, needed to understand that there's one boss, and that boss is the member. I really felt that. That wasn't injected in the team. Everybody felt that, that they were the bosses. And leading by example has always been the way that I have, been a great leader. Example, when we opened Pereira, there was a problem. The scrubber wasn't working. So, how do you pick up water if there is no scrubber? You grab a mop and a bucket, and I started sweeping. And the guy came to, hey, boss, I got it. I said, whoa, you're doing a job. I got it. I could sweep. I know how to sweep. Next thing you know, there were 15 pails and 15 mops, and everybody started mopping the whole front. So it's just leading by example, changing that mentality that we, in order to make any business successful, in order to make PriceSmart successful, we needed to understand the member was the most important thing. And my job was to focus with corporate on what are the right things that we had to have here.
Right. Oh man, there's so much to dig into there. So one question I have for you is, and this is something I struggle with, and I'd say it can be a challenge as a leader, is how do you help cultivate or coach an individual to be able to see what needs to be done and to do it? To have it. I think there's something you talked about with the mop, like, okay, this needs to happen. I'm going to take it upon myself to make it happen. Right. So how do that, it can be taught, but it also comes from within, this sense of responsibility. So like, it's my responsibility. And even if it's not my job, I'm still a part of that shared ownership. So I'm curious, how do you see cultivating that with people?
Well, I think it's consistency. For me, consistency of, you continuing to teach, continuing to show, and being, like I said, leading by example.
Yep.
It becomes a tattoo to them. It becomes, and then they start doing it, and then the supervisors start doing it, and now the employees are like, wow, now I got to do it. I just feel it's all about attitudes. It's the tone of the top.
Totally.
I like I said, I'm very blessed that I have a lot of employees in Colombia who really, when they see me, they don't see the boss. They see Pedro. They see a human being
Right.
that they could talk to, that they could ask questions. And sometimes I feel like I'm their best friends, and that's okay. That's okay. I don't need to be a boss. I just want them to feel comfortable. That's how I feel that you create that, and you do that when you're the CEO now, and I feel like very comfortable, and that's how how I feel today. This is how I want them to feel.
Well, that's something I've always seen my dad do.
Absolutely.
He's a very humble person, and he treats everyone the same. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're rich, you're poor, you're short, you're tall, you're a man, you're a woman, you're a person. And so I've always had that example, and with Saul even. So I think that's the kind of culture we want to have with the company.
But that's why I learned that from him. I learned that from every time I had been blessed, like I said, to work with Jim and to work with Robert. But I have more full walks with Robert than I had with Jim, and it just amazes me how, like you said, how humble he is, and he will care about something. He will tell you what you need to know, but at the same time, there's a teaching behind it.
Yep.
And he's telling you because he knows. I know that every time Robert wasn't happy with something, I know he expected me better. He expected me to know better. I just know it. And that's why sometimes I'm like, man, why didn't I see that? But I learned from it. And I think, when you said that, I started from there, because I think that's something very important that I need to continue to do.
We all should.
Yeah.
If you're leading a team, you got to be teaching. So I have a couple of questions. Thinking now, you have built this great team here in Colombia and a set of memories as well. And you have a long career with PriceSmart. I'm curious if there's a particular floor walk or experience that stands out to you as like one of the real impactful learning moments that you had in your career. It could be from Robert, it could be from Jim, it could be from one of your employees.
Well, I remember one time walking with Robert, and he asked me an oil. It was an oil. We were in the Dominican Republic. He asked me, "Are we competitive without oil?" And I'm like, "Yes, we are." He's like, "What?" He's like, "What's the competitiveness?" I remember going a couple of weeks back and seeing it. And it was like about 12%. And I said, 12%. And he goes, "We're going to go and see if that's right." After like a few minutes, we went to, I believe it was either Bravo or La Sirena. I don't recall which one at this point, but it was one of them two, because it was close to Charlotte Summers. And I'm praying, I'm like, God, I'm praying, please, I know it was 12%. And it was 12%. And he just looked at me and goes, "You're very lucky." I knew that I did not know the answer. And the teaching there was, if you don't know the answer, just say you don't know.
Yeah.
That was the teaching. And that's something that I have treasured, all my life from him. There's many things, but that's one of them that I also try to teach that to my kids and everybody. If you don't know the answer, just tell me. It's okay. We don't have to know everything. But it took me that moment many years ago. I'm talking about maybe 20 years ago to learn it. And I've been following that in my career.
That's a good story. So what about a moment that you're most proud of?
Wow. At work related, or?
Maybe we'll start with work and then we'll shift to personal.
I remember one time we had a floor walk and everything went well. It wasn't here in Colombia.
Okay.
It was here in Colombia. And, Colombia, we haven't been hitting budget. It's been a couple of rough years. And, sometimes coming from the Caribbean and, making a lot of, making things are different over there. For me, the first 4 years was like, Jesus, is anything going right? And after the fourth year, I remember we had a floor walk from Robert, and he was in Salitre, and I was with Mauricio, and he just looked around, he goes,
Mauricio was our club manager?
yes, Mauricio was our club manager, and he goes, I would shop here if I lived here. For me, that meant the world, because it's not too many times that you could hear Robert saying, this is I would shop here. He had a smile, and for me, that was something I remember, because Colombia, I was put here, and I didn't know what to expect. And for him to be happy, at least they were going in the right direction. With all the hard times, I felt that was one of the top moments for me.
That's great. Well, we've come a long way in Colombia, and it's in large part because of the team we built and the leadership that you've shown, and then all the great leaders that we have now in place. It's really incredible. So thanks for everything you've done here. I want to shift gears because you also have a really interesting personal life, and I want to talk a little bit about some of your hobbies, your family. You're an avid marathon runner. I'd say almost borderline prolific, as you've done quite a few. So let's jump onto that. So tell me a little bit about yourself outside of work.
Well, I love to run. I was telling the story the other day. I think I was 40. Or my daughter was around 5 years old, and I was running around the backyard, and I just fell, and I felt like everything was going around. I was overweight. I was about 240 pounds, size 38, and I said, I got to change my life and get. I want to be here for when my daughter gets married, my kids get married. So I started running, and I had two guys that worked with us that they were runners, and they will give me tips. And I'm the type of person, when I put something on my mind, I'm not just going to do it just for fun. I'm going to do it because I'm the best at it. And I wanted
that tracks.
Yeah. And I remember I said, what is the most ultimate thing that a runner could do? And everybody said 6-star medal, which means you have to do Tokyo, you have to do London, you have to do Berlin, New York City, Chicago, and you have to qualify for Boston. So one of the guys that we used to work with, he's like, yeah, it's hard to qualify for Boston. So I kept trying. David, I kept trying. For my age, it was 3:17. It was 3:23.
That's fast.
3:23 that you had to qualify. So I did it to 3:22. I'm pretty happy, but there were so many participants that they went to 3:21. So then I ran New York City.
And you had to do that in a race.
In a race, yes. There's a qualifier for Boston. So I ran.
And there's certain races that are applicable.
Exactly, yes. So I had to, New York City was one of them. So I got into New York City, and I did it in 3:17. So that's when I qualified for Boston. Hometown. I will never forget. My poor wife and my kids were ready to finish meet me on the finish line. And I remember that, they were like, oh, Daddy's going to finish around 3:21. So when I finished, I'm like, where are they? They haven't even gotten off the train to meet me. So it was great to see them. I qualified. And then when I did Boston, I did my PR. So
awesome. So you've done all 6?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite?
Boston is just, there is something about that race that I can explain. One day you will do it. I know you will. And when you pass the Getty sign, the Citgo sign, you just, I don't know what it is that you just get this energy. You're exhausted because you only got 2 miles left. But you get this energy. And then when you turn, it's the best feeling in the world.
So as you referenced, I recently got back into running myself, and I did a multi-day or the overnight relay race thing, and I just signed up for my first marathon.
Right.
In January.
Okay.
Got a coach.
Wow. That's soon.
It's soon, but I feel like I have a good base,
Okay.
you know, but I wanted to ask you, do you have any advice for an aspiring runner?
Just try to have fun.
Okay.
I really think that is my problem. I always want to do a better time. And that's something that, the coach in my life, my wife, she always coaches me. She's like, just run for fun and you will probably break every PR record, but you put so much pressure in the beginning of the race, then you have to go to the bathroom 20 times and you're all nervous. Just have fun. And when I started applying the having fun, it works. Trust me, it works. Because, no matter what, you're just running. And then when you realize, like, oh my God, I'm almost 80% into the run. But if you start trying to time yourself on every mile, then your mind does work on you.
Yeah. Well, man, that's super inspiring. Congratulations. That's really cool. I see actually a parallel somewhat between some of the things you've learned through running and your management philosophy. And that's about being present, right? Because if you're present and you're running, then you're not thinking about the miles. You're just going, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing managing by walking around and being with people. You got to be present.
Correct.
So I see a lot of crossover there.
Correct. And I'm going to get back into probably, competing again.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you take a little hiatus after Boston?
Yes. Yeah. After I did Tokyo, I took like a
great reason to travel too. That's cool.
Yes. My wife and I, we went out there. We had a great time. I told her that, when I get incarnated, when I die and come back again, I want to live in Japan, and I want to be because the lifestyle there, the way the cities were clean.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe, I'm from New York. We don't, it's red and there's no cars coming, so you just cross. Everybody's waiting to the walk signs.
Yeah. Did you go to that Shibuya crossing?
No, I
Yeah,
didn't go there. But I almost crossed it. My wife goes, "Did you see that everybody's waiting?"
You're like, I'm a New Yorker. Come on. Yeah, that's funny. Interesting. Okay, well that'll be cool. Well, one day we'll have to go out running together or something.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and you do nutrition and everything through the race. You got your nutrition dialed in. Nutrition is really important.
Yeah, very important. Hydration also very important. Very important. And one of the things I learned also is that we can, you got to watch what you eat 5 days also. 5 days before. You can't just, you got to limit. You got to be very careful because anything could just.
Did you work with a coach?
Yes, I do have a trainer, but everything is by
online.
Online, yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I found a guy on Training Peaks, and it's actually really nice. Like we meet once a month on Zoom, and otherwise I just like upload my runs, and he tells me what to do or gives me feedback.
That's right.
Yeah, it's really easy.
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah.
And then the best part is when you hit when you are hitting what he's telling you to hit, and you like,
feels good.
Yeah, you feel good.
I think those of us that are like very driven by metrics, which many of us in business and retail are very driven by hitting the target, it kind of scratches that itch, right? Do you have any other hobbies outside of running that you like to do? I'm sure you're busy. You work a lot.
Yeah. Well, I when I'm not working, I like to be with my family. And I like to take my.
Tell me a little bit how many kids you have.
Well, I have 6 kids, like 6 rights. I had a kid for every right.
That's good.
So yeah, I even believe. Did you see how I even believe so much in it? I had 6 kids. So
beautiful.
It's a lot, but one girl.
Okay.
5 boys and 1 girl.
Great. Did any of them go into retail?
My son Christian, he was working at Costco, but then he wanted to focus in college, and he goes to Adelphi, so he wanted to give that a chance, and that's where he's at. But he's the only one that worked at Costco, and he was everybody still there. People that know me.
Oh, really?
Look for me.
He worked at Westbury.
Yeah. Well, he was working at another Costco.
Okay, that is some of them. I remember
some of the guys that work at Westbury were working over there, so they knew him. They're like, "You look familiar." Man, he's like, "Yeah." They was like, "My dad is Pedro." Like, "Oh, he told me everything."
So I got another question for you in the topic of advice. So I'm a new parent. You have any advice for me in the topic of fatherhood?
Oh, David, yes. It's one thing that I always say that, sometimes you look back, you would say, what would you do different in life if you knew?
Yeah.
Try to spend as much time as you can with your kid. Because I could tell you, being so away from them, and now that they are men, I miss those times where you're home and they wouldn't get off of you. They're all on top of you because you were watching a movie. Now it's like, where's everybody? Where's everybody? So spend as much time
It's quick.
with him as much as you can, and then treasure those moments, those special moments. It's just really, really cool. It pumps you up to feel that you got to do more and more and more for them. I mean, so that's my advice.
That's good advice. The time goes so fast.
Time goes incredibly fast. I can't believe my daughter already graduated from college. She has a job and she's loving life. And I'm like, I remember when she was 5 years old. So it's time flies, but don't miss those moments that are special. I did them, and I regret them, and that's an advice that you could take from me.
Noted. It's good advice. So, kind of, as we approach to close here, I want to thank you before I ask. I always close with the same question, but I'm going to get there. But I wanted to thank you first. You're a great storyteller. Storytelling is a very important aspect of leadership, in my opinion. Limited opinion, but I think it's important because it's like one of the ways that we would truly connect with other humans. It's a very unique human thing. Like no other animals tell stories that I know of. They might, but I wouldn't understand them. But, we really are able to tell stories and connect these ideas about feelings. And I think it can help make an impact on people. And I think it's a skill you have. And it probably is an aspect of how you're able to connect with people. I mean, it's really important. So
thank you.
Thanks for sharing some of those with me.
Thank you.
So the way I typically close the podcast, I want to ask you this question: is that what is something you've learned from a person you work with in this last year that's made a positive impact on you?
Balanced life. I think that's something that somebody's like, you got to learn. You're getting older, and you got to find a balance in where you can't be just work. You got to find that balance, family, work, family. You got to find, and it's hard to find to balance that, but that's something that I personally feel I've improved a lot, and I know my wife feels as well. Getting back home a little more often, and then when I'm home, spending that quality time with her or with the family. We just came out of a beautiful vacation we haven't done in a while in Aruba.
Oh, awesome!
And we had the best time of our lives. I mean, we had an amazing time.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big. That's something that I'm trying to balance life.
You have a lot of passion, and I think passion and balance sometimes can be at odds.
Absolutely.
But you do your best.
I do my
best. You do your best. Well, thanks for sharing that, and thanks for being open to being on the podcast. I appreciate it.
No problem for me, David. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to continue, working with you. I'm looking forward. I'm very excited.
Me too.
And one of the things that I'm very grateful for, back in the Price Club days, and Robert creating we've sold this company. They gave me an opportunity to be the person I am today. The leader I am today. Because I started as a stalker, and look where I am today. And when I tell my kids the story of me, when you're passionate, when you love what you do, and when there's an opportunity, you take it, and you give it 100%. This is what you could do. So I try to teach everybody that. Sometimes I'll tell my kids, I feel like I'm the Jeter of PriceSmart. I love the Yankees, so
Derek Jeter.
And then he goes, Dad, why you say that? Because I get paid good money to do what I love the most. So that's the way I feel.
Man, that's beautiful. I can't even add anything else. I feel really privileged to have had the chance to sit down with you today. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to keeping working with you.
Same here.
I have a lot of fun ahead.
Same here.
Yeah, thank you. And to our listeners, thanks for joining us. This was really a fun conversation. So I hope you enjoyed it too. And we want to hear from you. So drop a comment either on YouTube or Spotify. Follow us. Send an email. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time at the club.